Hi, and welcome to episode 18 of Dynamos. Man, I still want to say Dominoes. Maybe I should rename my podcast Creative Dominoes. Today I have with me Jacci Turner. Jacci and I know each other through TikTok. We've been following each other there for quite a while. And Jacci is somebody I've been eager to get on my show because I really like the content that she's creating over there. I know I hate the word content too, but it is what it is. I love the videos that she's creating over there, and you've just got this very genuine feeling about everything that you do. And as I was telling you before we started, unfortunately, I haven't read anything of yours yet, but I plan on rectifying that because what I have read of the descriptions of your work, along with this really cool sort of, I don't know if it's your vision statement or what, but this little phrase that you had on your website, infusing reality with hope,
Mm,
which I want to talk to you about, just really speaks to me. But before we get started on all that, welcome.
thank you. And did you press play?
I definitely pressed record. But yeah, tell me a little bit about how long you've been writing and what that journey's looked like.
Sure. I wrote off and on my whole life, but mostly I was a theater kid and I loved theater. And when I got older, my kids did theater with me. And then I realized that takes a lot of hours of rehearsal. And I stopped doing theater because they weren't interested anymore. And so I was older when I realized I didn't really have a creative outlet in my life. So I thought, what can I do on my own time? I decided I could write. And my first book that I wrote for publication, I was 50,
Okay.
50. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it when I have guests who have gotten a start a little later in life because that just says to me and says to the audience, like, you're never too old. I mean, 50 is not old. I'm in my 50s. And I mean, I've been writing off and on my whole life, but, I started doing this seriously in my 30s. So, whatever decade you're at in your life,
Yeah.
if you haven't started creating, please start now.
Yes.
Don't wait, but it's never too late until you're in the ground.
Too late.
Um,
I love that.
and I love the fact that you've connected it back to drama because for me, I was a drama kid in high school, and sadly, I never got. I've wanted to, and I may yet, and that may be my second or third life, getting involved in community theater because I loved being in drama in high school. But role playing games were my
Mm,
dramatic outlet and remain that to some degree. So yeah, I know how that storytelling through
yeah.
through stage work really does connect to storytelling on the page. Before we get into your stories, talk to me about that infusing reality with hope. Where does that come from?
I used to be a school counselor, and the kids that I worked with were living in cars and meth houses and going through a really hard time. And I just think that life is hard, but there's always hope. And so I feel like my stories need to have some hard things in them, but there needs to be hope. And that I don't think there's a book that I've written where you wouldn't come away feeling that there was hope.
That's awesome. You're actually the second author that I've talked to that has a background in working with kids in that therapeutic kind of way,
Mm.
and that's something that my wife and I have done as well. We were house parents at a children's home,
Wow.
and that was a really special time. So
Yeah.
I applaud that work, whoever's doing it, because the kids, man, today is such a hard time in so many ways. In some ways, it's better, I think, than when I was a kid.
Mm.
But in some ways, it's a lot harder, I think, because kids get exposed to things through social media and through traditional media that they didn't get exposed to when I was younger at quite as tender an age, you know. But thankfully, I think in a lot of ways there's a lot more support for, like, I have a trans kid and a gay kid, and I mean they're adults now, but there's a lot more support for kids like that than there used to be. I'm grateful for that. So we wanted to talk today about, I guess, your most recent series.
Yeah,
You have quite a few books out, but
about 16.
these two look to be in the fantasy genre.
Yeah, my first fantasies actually. The first one is Tree Singer, and the second one, Wind Catcher.
I love
And I
those
just
covers.
aren't they pretty?
Yes.
I think they're really pretty. And today I just announced the name of the third book, which is now with my editor, is going to be Heart Talker.
Congratulations.
And it is the last book in the series, unless I get crazy and do one of those side series.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the gist of the series?
Oh, it's about it's a little island. Everybody there's immigrant, of course, except the indigenous people, but it's an island where people have gifts, and the gift of my main character is singing to trees to help them grow. And in the first book, the something is attacking the forest, so the king sends her on a quest to try to find out what is attacking the forest. So it's a lot. She doesn't want to go. She's very introverted and quiet and shy and loves her trees. But of course, she has to go because you can't say no to the king.
Right.
And she has to, find enough support and grow into her leadership and her voice. A lot of my books are about finding your voice against injustice. And in the second book, the king asks her to go to the other clans and find people that can be in a leadership program to possibly be the next king or queen. And while she's doing that, something is harming the water in one of the clans. So then again, she has to try to figure that out. So they've gotten tagged as eco fiction, which I never really thought about as I was writing them, but it makes sense. They do have a love the earth, all things are connected kind of feel. It's very Celtic in its feeling.
That's cool. And it's so interesting when Amazon puts your books in a genre that you didn't necessarily pick. You put your keywords in and you cross your fingers and and you hope it gets put in the slots that you want it to get put in.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it just gets put in some interesting subgenres.
Category.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what made you decide to write a fantasy series? So this is your first one.
I love reading fantasy. I'm a big fantasy reader. And I go to California. I live in Nevada, but I'm from California and I miss the trees, the redwoods. So I go up there about once a month and, hug a tree. And I was sitting looking at this gorgeous redwood and I thought, well, what would it be like if you could sing to the tree and help them grow? And that's how the series was born. You know how things go. Your brain just goes, what if, dot, 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 dot. And that was it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I tell people, like, if you ever decide to write, you'll be amazed where inspiration will come from.
Yeah.
For sure. What are some of your inspirations as far as authors that you vibe with?
Well, I love Robin Hobb, and she wrote this whole long, huge series started out with The Assassin's Apprentice, and then it goes on all these side stories. And I read it a while back, and recently I decided to re-listen to the whole thing on Audible, which was amazing because right now I just want to be in a fantasy world because the world is hard.
Yes.
And that was good for my soul to do that. So she's very current in my mind right now. Yeah, but I'll read whatever. I'm pretty much a mood reader. I'll read what comes across or friends have written. And I just finished that whole series, though. It was amazing.
I can definitely identify with being a mood reader. I'm a mood reader. I'm also kind of a mood writer, and I work on multiple things at a time. Do you kind of focus in on one thing at a time, or do you work on multiple projects at once?
I write multiple projects. Unless I'm working with my editor, I'll have to get back to her. But like right now, I'm writing my first historical fiction. I've been writing it off and on for years. And it's really fun, but trying to find the heart of a story sometimes takes me a while. Like, what am I really, really wanting to be the heart of this story? And so I don't know that I've found that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to keep digging until I do. But I mean, the book is finished. I've had story editors, I've had sensitivity readers, authenticity readers. This is the book that has had more people put into it than any book I've written, but I still don't feel like it's there.
I feel that I have a book that is it's been done for quite a while, and I've had people look at it, and I've had different people look at it from different points of view, and I'm at the point now where I'm just like, I want to get this out,
Mm,
you know? So yeah, I get that. But you got to find out, you've got to find, I like what you said, you've got to find the heart of the story. And you've got to
yeah.
find, what speaks to you as a writer, and then what you hope is going to speak to the audience for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah. My daughter said when she read it, she goes, I'm not sure this book knows what it is yet.
Okay,
Like,
stop the presses. Your child read your book.
yes, my family's very supportive. My husband won't read my books until they've been through an edit because he has an editor's brain and I can't. But but yeah, she read it and she's like, not sure it's ready. So that was helpful.
Nice. Well, it's good that your family is supportive. Not every author has that experience. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's been a big help.
Oh yeah. My husband's my biggest fan. I just am so grateful for that.
My wife is incredibly supportive of my work, but she does not like horror, which is one of the genres that I play around in. And so and it's funny because she loves horror movies,
Huh.
um, but when she gets to the scary parts, she covers her ears. Um, and she can't
Are
do
they
that.
all scary?
She can't do that when she's reading books.
No.
You know, but she'll read like my other stuff for sure. But that's great. I'm glad that your family, especially your spouse, is supportive of what you do, because that can be a big challenge.
Yeah.
They say that our that writing is a very lonely profession sometimes, and without
Hmm.
that support, it can be a challenge. What as somebody who got started later in this, what are some of the challenges that you've faced in writing and putting your work out there?
Well, when I first wrote my first book, this is the opposite problem of having family that is fangirling. They said it was perfect. And then I went to a writer's group. My daughter, for my 50th birthday, gave me a writer's group, and I went. And the first thing the guy sat down next to me, what did you write? Oh, I wrote young adult fiction. I'm here to find a publisher. He says, who's read it besides your family or friends? And I'm like, nobody. And he said, you need to be in a critique group.
Yes.
And oh, so I went to a critique group and they did not think the book was perfect.
Yes. Yes.
And they were right. So I just, to me, the most important thing for any author is to have a group of objective people in your life who can support and encourage you, but tell you the truth.
Yes. And sometimes family can do that, and sometimes they can't. It's tough to tell people that you care about the bitter truth of this is not ready for human consumption.
Yeah. Yeah, it was brave of my daughter to say that because she said the first time and this was a long time ago, a book that's never been seen the light of day, but she said, the first time I gave you feedback, you got pretty upset. So I don't really want to say anything. But one thing a writer has to do is develop a really thick skin.
Yes.
And that's what 15 years of writing will do for you. And so I said, no, tell me.
Yes. So was it hard for you at first to take that criticism?
Whenever I get criticism, usually from my own editor, it's not criticism. Usually it's very lovingly said. But I always say I have a love-hate relationship with her because I hate it when she gives me feedback, but she's always right. And so I take it, I read it, I sit on it for a few days, and then I look at it more objectively, and then I'm like, yeah, she's right.
Yes.
Yes.
I will say, it's important to know when to listen to your editor and when to
Mm-hmm.
stick to your guns. Because sometimes, not most of the time, but sometimes you need to say, no, this is what I intended. Absolutely, I'm going to leave that in there. But yeah, most of the time, 85, 90% of the time, listen to your editor. You're paying them. You should probably listen to them.
Yeah.
So I believe that you're an indie publisher, right?
Yes. I have one traditionally published book, which really didn't go very well. And I found that no matter how you do it, there are going to be issues. You're going to find typos. You're going to have uploading and downloading and cover issues, no matter what you do,
Yes.
traditional or not. I mean, my traditionally published book was part of HarperCollins imprint. And when it came to me, it was beautiful. The cover, the formatting, it was so nice not to have to do that. And then I got to the author page and there was a picture of someone else
No.
with my bio. And I'm like, who is this?
How does that happen?
I don't know. So they said it was a printing error. So they were very apologetic. So they fixed it and they sent me a box like, here, have 10 of your books. We're so sorry. So I opened it up and there she was again.
So not once, but twice.
Twice. The second time I wasn't laughing. The first time I'm like, yeah, this is so funny. It happens to everybody. And then the second time I'm like, okay.
Oh wow. Now
So
see,
yeah.
I as much as I love our traditionally published brothers and sisters, and I wish for anyone who wants it to be traditionally published, I love hearing those stories because for no other reason than because it makes me feel better when I make a monumental mistake that should be
Yeah.
glaringly obvious in my own indie published stuff that major companies can make these screw ups too.
Yes.
And
And
it reminds me that we're all just people, you know.
we're all human. And I want people who want to be traditionally published to realize that does not, 99% of the time, does not mean that you don't have to market and market and market because they just don't do that for you anymore unless you happen to hit one of the big ones and go into a bidding war or something.
Yeah.
They are going to make you market. And I didn't get any marketing help. I got a couple pretty, pictures that I could use, and that was it.
Yeah, I got into a discussion with somebody on Threads about that relatively recently, and they were like, "Yeah, but if you're traditionally published, you get all this help and stuff." And I'm like, "No, I mean, not usually, no." Now,
Much
granted,
anymore.
I've never been traditionally published myself unless you count short stories that I've sold, but I know enough people personally that have been traditionally published that are not, and they finally said, well, mid-list authors. And I said, well, no, first you said traditionally published authors. You didn't say mid-list authors. So, if we're talking like mid-list and above, yes, you're going to get some help because you've shown that you can sell books.
Right.
But, if you're your first book out there, you're probably, unless there's something really unique about your situation, you're going to have to move the books yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to get out there and do book tours and book signings, and you're probably going to have
Yeah.
to set those up yourself. Now, is it easier for you to get into bookstores? Probably yes,
Yeah.
but
Distribution is easier for sure.
but uh, but yeah, you're still going to have to get out there and shake your tail feathers.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, as someone who came to this late and who isn't in a technology background, how has it
Mhm.
been for you to adjust to using social media to get the word of your books and stuff out?
And, I do a lot of talks to other authors about this, but for me, social media has been a fabulous place to get the word out. Originally, it was Twitter. And I found people on Twitter saying, can I do an interview with you or will you write a blog thing for me? And it was like so surprising. It's like, oh my gosh, people want to help me. This is amazing. And then, I left that when it became X, but TikTok has been fabulous to meet people like you who are willing to invite me into an interview or do a live. It's like the most supportive thing in the world. And I try to help people understand that. They're like, I don't want to make videos. TikTok is like a sleepover. Nobody cares what you look like. Nobody cares if you edit your videos and have fancy pictures like on the gram. They just They just want to talk about books, and it's fabulous.
I'm glad that you've had that experience. I know it's not positive for everybody. It's been largely, if not overwhelmingly, positive for me too. And the part of the reason I've started doing these interviews is because when I first got started writing and publishing my stuff 15, 16 years ago, there was a very active community in podcasting fiction, which is what I did when I first started. And there were lots of podcasts and lots of when blogging was more of a thing, lots of blogs, and people would do lots of sharing and cross posting and stuff like that. And I noticed that that did not seem to be as common. It still happens. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there is opportunity out there if you look, but it's not as common as it doesn't feel like it's as common as it used to be. So I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see. So I think that's important. You know, if you find yourself complaining, even good naturedly, about something, then maybe that's a sign that you need to be that change maker instead of just, you know, whinging about how things aren't how you'd want them to be. So, because complaining doesn't really get you anything, in my experience anyway. And yeah, so social media, like the people that I've found on Threads and TikTok, unfortunately not on Twitter. Once upon a time, guys, I promise you, Twitter was great. Um, I was an early adopter on Twitter. I've been in technology for over 25 years, and Twitter was great when it first got started. And even, you know, 5, 10 years in, it was great. But now
Yeah,
it's a cesspool.
it's a dump fire.
But Threads is great, and Blue Sky seems to be all right. But yeah, if it's all in what you make it, I think it's all in what you
Mm-hmm.
put out. So I feel like when I look over your work, I'm picking up like a spiritual component of some kind. Is that pretty
Mm-hmm.
accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I have a long history with spirituality. I became a Christ follower in at the very end of high school and was involved for most of my adult life in an act. It was a large Christian organization. We came to loggerheads over the LGBTQIA experience because my husband and I are advocates, and that didn't go well. So I was invited to leave that organization.
Oh, that's a shame, but not
And
surprising.
10 years later, I'm fine with that because my life is deep and rich and God is so much bigger. But, you know, there are some times when you just have to make a stand. And it's like, no, not going to do that.
That's encouraging. It's always good to meet a fellow Christian who believes that love is, you know, God and God is love, and that it's important to infuse your work with that ethos without necessarily being overly preachy about it, or and just let people feel your character and that it's informed by your faith, and to take a stand for positivity and human rights. And how, I mean, that shouldn't be controversial. Like, I'm bisexual. I have, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I have kids that are in the LGBT spectrum, I guess. The Rainbow Mafia, as I have called them in the past, and at least one of my kids is nominally Christian because it's hard. Oh gosh, I'm not going to get on that soapbox, but it's hard to when all they hear is the negativity from other people who call themselves Christian and want to spend a bunch of time telling people where they're going to end up for
Mm-hmm.
eternity instead of spending time feeding the hungry and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, clothing the naked and tending to the
Marginalized.
marginalized. Thank you.
You mean acting like Jesus?
Yeah, being kind to the immigrant and
Right,
all the
right.
things, all the other Old Testament things, frankly,
Yeah. And New
and New
Testament too.
Testament things.
This was all about this thing. I don't know what happened.
That's encouraging. And Yeah. So, in light of your separation from that organization, has it been challenging to sort of hang on to that part of you, or is it just naturally, been something that you've been able to maintain?
It's wonderful. I started, so that I'm a spiritual director, and I started training spiritual directors, which is this ancient discipline that came down originally through the Catholic Church. And which made me read a lot of the like desert mothers and fathers, and I learned about the stages of spiritual development and how we all go through these stages. It doesn't matter what your faith is, we go through these stages of growth. And it helped me sort of, oh, okay, so this black and white thinking is a natural stage of spiritual development, but at some point you hit a wall, and when you come out on the other side of that wall, you really have a bigger picture of who God is. And it just gave me the language for that. So I actually wrote a nonfiction book about that process. It's called Tumbled People Deconstructing and Reconstructing Your Faith, because I haven't lost my faith in God. It's just much bigger now, and broader and more accepting. And so I wanted to try to help other people who are going through that deconstruction process to, have somebody to work through it with.
That's fabulous. I look at my daughter who is in her 20s, and she has a hard time with traditional Christianity and what it teaches because she's a lesbian, and she married her wife earlier this year, and they are living out like her wife was a missionary kid,
Wow.
and they are living out their, I don't want to say they're living out their faith because I don't want to speak to where they're at in their journey, but they are living out what I wish every other Christian faith looked like, because they started a Facebook group recently where, and this is just my proud dad moment, where they are helping develop resources. They live on the coast of North Carolina. They're helping develop resources like blessing boxes and helping people find, food pantries, and just helping people get food and resources and things like that. Because in this tourism centric place on the Outer Banks, in the off season, people are living hand to mouth, and
Mm.
they're living off of whatever they made in the summer months, and they're getting some unemployment. They're living off of SNAP, which, thanks to Cheetolini, was unpredictable there for a while, and I'm so proud.
That's wonderful.
Even if she doesn't embrace the faith that she was raised in, maybe she'll come back to it. Maybe she won't. She's living out the ethos that we brought her up in, and her wife, whose family has rejected her because of her sexuality. I get to be a father to her in a way that her own father is not a father to her. So yeah, I don't know.
That's beautiful.
I wish and I hope for them that they will come back to a relationship with God. But if they don't, that doesn't change how I love them. And I just think it's beautiful what they're doing for their community. And who knows? Maybe some Christians in their community will learn from them. That would be beautifully ironic. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
I'm going back into writer interviewer mode and out of proud dad preacher mode. So you've written fiction and nonfiction. How is that engaging with nonfiction? How is that writing process different?
Well, I had a blog for about 8 years where I wrote, it was called Spiritual Practices 101. And it was just like easy on ramp spiritual practices, like going for a walk,
Mhm.
you know, how that can help your spirit, or doing yoga, or writing or reading. And so that kind of also the cornerstone of that book. I used a lot of the blogs to talk about spiritual practices that undergird our activism, because all activists burn out if they don't have a solid spiritual support system. So it was fun. I'm not sure that writing all these different genres is good for me as far as getting traction. Because, if you really are like, if you write mysteries, people find you and keep you. But if you're like, I'm going to write this and I'm going to write that, it's a little bit harder.
Preach that, sibling. I wrote a blog post about that very topic not that long ago because I'm a multi-genre author, and at some point I'm going to be writing some nonfiction. And yeah, it's hard because people like consistency. People will they're like you write a science fiction book, people buy that and they're like, when are you going to put out your next science fiction book or horror book
Right.
or what have you? Or if you write a series, they're going to wait for that next book in the series. And I'm like, but I have all these books over here that they're just as well written. They're just not the same thing. And they're like, no,
Right.
I want the same thing. So yeah, that's a challenge. It's definitely a
It is.
challenge.
It is. You kind of, if you're writing nonfiction, you kind of have to be an expert. I don't know if that's the right word, but in whatever you're writing about. And so the way that I've had the most luck with that book is that I do retreats, kind of like spiritual retreats, come away and restore your soul kind of retreats, where people have read the book and come together and we do some of the spiritual practices. Yeah, I've done 2 or 3 of those and those have been really good, but otherwise it's not like easy to find those people.
That's fun though, getting to lead retreats like that. I bet that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. But it's, a lot of organizing and finding a venue and, money and all that. So
Yeah, a lot of work.
a lot of work.
So what's next for you besides your follow-up book in this trilogy?
Well, it's the season. So I've been doing almost every weekend some kind of tabling to sell books. I have 2 more. Well, one more in December and then one in January. And then I'm going to Canada for a month with my family. My daughter and her kids are moving there for safety. And we're going to go for a month and help them get settled. And so I think I'll just be sitting inside a very dark room in the rain. Maybe I'll get that railroad book finished. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a long weekend ahead of me that I'm doing a 2-day event at our mall, a holiday themed, with a bunch of vendors and things. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's going to be like 12-hour day tomorrow and
Mhm.
probably a 10-hour day on Sunday. So yeah,
Just a
but
long day.
but I will say, and I don't know if this has been your experience, but I say this on almost every one of these, if you're an author and you can do in-person events, it's a good way to sell books.
It is. It is. And I've been doing it for 15 years now. And the last time I did it, I had the most amazing experience because it was at a high school. And
Oh,
I kept having kids come up to me that had read, because I write a lot of middle grade books for 8 and up. I had kids coming up and pointing at my books and saying, I read that in my elementary school. I read that in my middle school. And I was like,
that's got to feel so good.
it felt so good because as an author, you don't have any clue if anyone is reading your books unless they write a review, which is so rare, right? Please
Yep.
write reviews, people.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know. I had no clue. And it felt really good.
So what I meant to ask you earlier, what age audience are you shooting for with the Tree
This,
Singer books?
this series is for 11 and up, although I had 2 8-year-olds that wanted to read it. So I told their parents to read it first or read it with them because there's nothing really bad in it. It's just that, you can be 8 and read up, but should you?
Yeah,
Yeah, but mostly my people that love it are mostly older. I don't think it needs to be for teenagers, but
I gotcha. Yeah, I have a young adult science fiction series, and I'm always like, I wrote this for my kids as like middle school ish age,
mm,
but my kids were super precocious, so your kid might have to have like a dictionary sitting beside them if they know what dictionaries are. Although that's the beautiful thing about e-readers is now you can just tap on a word and it'll give you the definition. Well, Jacci, it's been great talking to you, and tell our audience where they can find you.
oh, okay. It's been great talking to you also, Scott. I really appreciate that you reached out to me. My all my stuff is with my name. Jacci is a very strange spelling. We can blame that on my mother. But if you type in Jacci Turner, JacciTurner.com, or at Jacci Turner, you're going to find me on most social media, or my website is JacciTurner.com.
See, guys, she knows how to do it. Get your domain name, not your series name. Although if you want to get your series name too and just redirect it to your author site, that's okay. And actually, you'll see this when I post the video, but I inadvertently framed this really well because I've got your book covers framing us, and then on this side where you are is Jacci, and on this side where I am, it's Turner. So it's like I'm totally taking credit for that because that's just beautiful. So anyway, it was good talking to you, and I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, I will let you know I'm hitting stop recording.